Well, this is like heat wave to you all, right?
Yeah.
Right?
No, not this morning.
Not exactly, not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Erika and I had the great pleasure of collaborating with Sheikh Kabir Helminski and putting music to the poetry of 13th century mystic poet Rumi. So we're going to share one of these songs with you right now, and it's just kind of get us settled in. It's not going to be as ruckus as the band. It's going to be the inner work. If all the world is full of thorns, the lover's heart would be a bed of roses. Even if the sphere of stars stops turning, the world of lovers keeps going on. Everybody gets sad sometime, but the lover's soul keeps a tender smile. Give the lover an unlit candle, and she'll awaken it with her own light. If all the world is full of thorns, the lover's heart would be a bed of roses. Even if the sphere of stars stops turning, the world of lovers keeps going on.
Good. Now the podium mic is on. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And I've lost my script. Here I am. I don't know who I am without a script. It says here that I'm Reverend C.C. Coltrane. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Greater Dayton, where we explore and learn from all spiritual and religious traditions, including the poet Rumi, who I quote often, and the other Sufi mystics. We're about discovering that golden thread that roams and wanders through all spiritual traditions, and what the commonality is and what it can teach us about our lives today. So if you're here for the first time, thank you for sharing your morning with us. And if you haven't already gotten one, I would invite you to pick up a copy of our welcome newsletter, which is back by the door. Also on your bulletin cover is a little tear-off strip where you can put your contact information so that we can stay in touch with you and let you know when we have fabulous special guests and workshops and things like that. And if you fill that out and take it over to the bookstore after the service, they have a little gift for you there. And on the other side is a prayer request, and there are more of those back by the prayer chest. If you want to anonymously request prayer, you can fill that out and drop it in the prayer chest, and the practitioners will pick it up and pray for you. I'm going to be your pulpit assistant this morning. And our vigil holder is Judy Nassmacher. I'm a minister, but I'm a practitioner first and always. And so Judy is as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about the practitioners in a few moments. But this is the time, I forgot to warn you all, that this is when we take a few minutes to greet each other. But before we do, if you have a cell phone, would you turn it off or put it on silent? That would be great. We take a couple of minutes to greet each other, and that usually means that everyone is running around hugging each other. So if you're not in the mood, you can stay in your seat, or you can put out your hand for a handshake. Ooh, hug music. We've got hug music going on. So let's spend a couple of minutes hugging each other.
What are you doing?
Okay. Time to sit down. Or stand up. One of the two. So Lisa and Etika are going to teach us a new song. The lyrics are in your bulletin.
It's a song called We Are One. We invited our dear friend Kenny Rice, who's played with us at numerous national conventions, and we always love to play with him when we can. It's called We Are One. Ready? We are one in spirit of God. We are one in spirit of God. We are one, we are one, we are one, we are one. We are one in the spirit of God, in the spirit of love. We are one in the spirit of love. We are one in the spirit of love.
Now you're going to do some.
Are we going to do White Blue Sky?
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit of that.
All right. I left my program on my seat. That's all right. I'll get it. Now I know what I'm doing, but thank you. We got shouting from the front. So we are so happy to be here today. And thank you, Reverend Cece, for inviting us. And we're going to share another one of these songs. We affectionately refer to them as Rumi tunes. It's, Rumi had a way. How many of you know who Rumi is? You love his stuff. Doesn't he just have a way of just like getting in and just cracking open your heart? And so this is one where Rumi reminds us that we are the wide blue sky. Don't pretend it isn't true, he says. We can see it in your eyes. Turn with the stars above you. So if you've seen the whirling dervishes, that word dervish is Turkish for threshold. And the Sufis believe that the body is the threshold between worlds. It's where the infinite and the material form come together, and we are conduits of that great light, that great divine spirit, that oneness. So that's what this song's about. If you desire the sound, get out of the self, leave the shallow stream behind. If you desire the sound, get out of the self, flow into the river deep and wide. You are the wide blue sky. Don't pretend it isn't true. We can see it in your eyes. Turn with the stars above you. So that's Erika. If you desire the sound, get out of the sound, leave the shallow stream behind. If you desire the sound, get out of the sound, flow into the river deep and wide. You are the wide blue sky. Don't pretend it isn't true. We can see it in your eyes. Turn with the stars. Turn with the stars above you.
look here, make sure. I think, yep. You guys can sit down until I finish reading and praying and anointing you. So, I invite you to prepare in mind, in body, and in spirit for this experience today. And our reading comes from the Joyous Living Journal by Petra Weldis and Christian Sorensen. Healing happens when you realize God as your consciousness and not as something to be reached, but rather to be expressed. Your purpose is the unfoldment of this revelation. You'll no longer be attempting to change anyone or anything, because your conception of the situation has changed to a divine perception. When you behold the divine, as opposed to seeing a problem to overcome, grace enters, and you will be proclaiming your wholeness. So just take these words into your inner sanctuary for a moment and let them enter deeply within you. From this place of peace and joy, I bless this service this morning. I know that every note of music and every word and every hug and every prayer reaches the hearts it was intended to reach. I know that this is a creation of each one of us, this experience this morning, as we each bring that wide blue sky down to earth, as we allow through our very being, Spirit to make itself manifest in our world. I give thanks for this time we have together, this time of celebration and joy and love that we have the opportunity to participate in. And I know that it is good and very good. So I just let it be. And we say together, and so it is. And so, most of the time when I have a guest speaker, I don't come to church because I take it as a day off. But I have to tell you something about Edika, who is our guest speaker today, Edika Luckett. The first time I heard her speak, or heard her voice, it was this odd little patter in the middle of a meditation CD called Praises for the World. And I thought, whose voice is that? Because she has such a magical quality. Her voice has been described as warm butterscotch. And I can really lean into that. You know, that's what it feels like. It's just smooth and sweet and sexy. And then a couple of years later, I've known Lisa for a long time, but in a year or so later, Edika showed up at, was it Asilomar the first time or the conference? Yeah, Asilomar, at our summer conference at Asilomar, and everybody fell in love with her, everybody. And she's sort of been an integral part of our music team at our meetings for ever since then. And then last year at this summer Asilomar conference, she spoke. And she spoke about a particular period in her life that had us all just completely, our hearts were flung open. She is the kind of person who is, she's kind of like a mystical Pied Piper. That's how I feel about her. People just want to follow her around because she walks her talk so well. So please help me give a warm welcome to Etika Luckett.
I'm so honored and grateful to be here with all of you this morning. It's my first time in Kettering, and it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Last evening, as Lisa and I drove west from Pittsburgh, there were moments where I said to her, "Oh, it feels kind of sad here." It wasn't yet in Kettering. It was sort of West Virginia, Ohio, and I could feel a sadness. And then as we got closer and closer here, you could feel the heart sort of open up and the vitality and it was just a beautiful welcome. And as the sun kind of crested, you could feel the light just above the clouds and the wintry trees stretching for spring. It was really beautiful. So very, very grateful to be here. And here we are in spring, the first hints of it. And today I wanted to talk about that spring, that awakening within. And of course, nature gives us constant reminders again and again of what it is to wake up to that divine presence as, thank you, that reading was so perfect. One mind.
One mind.
Yes. We make agreements all the time. And I didn't grow up in the United States. I grew up in South America. I was born in Mexico and raised in Venezuela and Brazil. And coming to the United States for me was such an amazing thing. It just felt like the United States had all the coolest cars and the best movies and television shows, and everything that was great came from the United States. And one of the most amazing things for me was, besides having fresh water come out of the tap that I could drink, which was very cool, was this wonder of daylight savings time. It was incredible. Everybody could agree on something. There were no arguments, and just from one day to the next, everybody made an agreement and stepped into a new time, and it wasn't something that had to be argued. Didn't matter what political party you were with, or it just was an agreement, and everybody agreed to it. And then before we knew it, like 24, with maybe 48 hours after our internal body clocks adjusted, we got completely in it and forgot about it, really. It's been 2 weeks since we moved into daylight savings. We all sprung forward. There were no car crashes, there were no fights, and there were no people standing in front of the grocery store saying, wait, you were supposed to open an hour ago. It wasn't. Everybody just does it, and we've been doing it, and it's effortless and seamless, and it's one of those agreements that is just easy, except for maybe Arizona, and they resist, and that's okay because they have their own choices and their own agreements. So the state of Arizona stays outside of that leap forward and spring back. So there are ways that we know agreements that we make and that we participate in. And then there are a whole slew of agreements that we are swimming in that we don't even really know about, that are just part of the water that make up we as fish in our own aquarium are not even aware of all these agreements. And Mark Twain said something really beautiful. He said, it's not what we don't know that gets us into trouble, it's what we know for sure that just ain't so. And it's that just ain't so thing that I kind of want to talk about this morning. And one of those is faith. And language is such a powerful thing. And having grown up with so many different languages in my heart and mind, I'm so enchanted by the power of language. And the word faith is something that is really, it's profound. We talk about faith, and faith is the belief in something unseen or unproven. So in this water that we swim in, we feel like we have to have faith in the divine, or faith in God as though it's something unseen or unproven. And yet, I really want to talk about how the divine is present everywhere, every moment, in every instant. Each one of us is a walking miracle. Each one of us is a result of the combination of two cells that joined and then instantaneously began replicating into this differentiation of almost 100 trillion cells. Each one of us is this walking miracle, that from two cells you now have lungs, heart, belly, thoughts, dreams, passions, laughter, desire. How did this happen? It's sacred. It's miraculous. Inside each one of your brains, there are more neurons than there are stars in the known universe. How is that? It's astounding. Each one of us is a walking miracle, evidence of sacred in form, but somehow we're asleep to it. Somehow we're always looking out there for evidence of the miraculous. Like somehow if our water does not turn into wine, we don't believe in the presence of the divine. How can we be such spoiled, coddled children? Now, we think it's arrogant when we say we are embodiments of the divine. Some people will say, how dare you believe that? My question is, how dare we not believe that? How dare we believe that this extraordinary expression of continuous miracles in life is here simply to coddle, feed, and entertain us, while we believe that somehow we're separate from that? It's like we arrive and we get driven to the Grand Canyon, and we might not even want to get out of the car. We stay parked, don't even want to see it. It's like, and then maybe some of us bold ones might step out of the car, and as we peer over the rail, maybe we're complaining that it's too hot, the sun's too bright, maybe it's too cloudy or too cold, maybe our pants are too tight, maybe we've been sitting in the car too long, maybe the food on the way wasn't good enough, maybe the gas prices are too high, and oh my God, what are we doing here anyway? How about that? Meanwhile, miracles are unfolding. Meanwhile, we are breathing, and there's an abundance of life-giving light and air, simply so that we can have this experience of being alive, of growing ourselves and understanding our relationship to the sacred. You know, it's funny, again, with language. Sometimes I think our religious teaching, and that it really doesn't matter whether we were church going as children. It's part of the water. That Judeo-Christian, Islamic, Abrahamic tradition it's the water that we drink. It's around us. And so we think about God-fearing. We are God-fearing people. My God. God-fearing. It's kind of like we've grown up with a bad game of telephone. You know that game we played as kids where somebody whispers something into one ear and then it goes to the next, and by the time it comes back to us, it's totally different. Well, the same thing has sort of happened with our faith traditions. Because in the Old Testament, originally in Aramaic, the word that was used was yirah, yirah. And it was translated eventually into Greek or Latin, and from the Latin into English. And by the time it got to English, it's fear, God-fearing. But really, what it is awe, amazement, wonderment. To be in awe of God. To be in total amazement at this gift of beingness, at the privilege of life. That's what we are. That's what our calling is to be in a state of wonderment at the privilege of being part of this miracle of life. God love, God amazement, God wonder, sacred sacred intoxication. There are scholars, Aramaic and Hebrew scholars, that say that this collective story we have, and that's whether we come from the Christian or Jewish or Islamic tradition, the story of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden is the same. And that idea that, again, whether it's metaphor, whether you want to take it as literal or metaphor, it doesn't really matter. It's a story that gives us value. It gives us an awareness of who we are as human beings. And so we take Adam and Eve, and they ate from the tree of knowledge. And after they ate of that tree of knowledge, God banished them from paradise, from the Garden of Eden. And the translation is actually wrong. The translation, the original, is when Adam and Eve ate from that tree of knowledge, they banished God from the Garden of Eden. And so our task really is simply to become aware of the presence of God here, right now, that the sacred is omnipresent. Divine essence is here for us in every moment, everywhere. But it's up to us and our awakening of consciousness to be able to tap into it, to access it, to become vessels and vehicles for that expression here and now. It's not something out there to be chased after or gotten. It's simply our task to open up and express what already is, to become aware of the sacred, to embody that perfection every moment. And that perfection isn't, oh my gosh, did my mascara go on just perfectly? Do I have every hair in place kind of perfection? No. The perfection, or maybe that's the feminine, I would say maybe the masculine, like, did I shave just right? Are there any hairs poking out of my ears? I don't know, but the point is, it's not that external perfection. The perfection that I'm talking about is recognizing that whatever is imbued with the sacred, and seeing things that sometimes stick out and we wonder why they stick out, or we want to judge them for being unlike what we think is right, and know that it is perfect just as it is. Now, that's easy to do when things are smooth and beautiful and smell just right. It's easy to do in spring. It might be a little more challenging when we're cold in the dark of winter and we're saying, where, and when will the sun come out? And yet that's exactly the moment. Those are the instances when our faith or our capacity to actually tap in is maximized. It was just about 3 years ago, in May of 2011, that I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I was a lifelong athlete. My mom was a yoga teacher. I grew up eating organic foods. I was 45 years old. That was the last thing I imagined. So it came as a huge surprise when I started feeling progressively worse and worse and worse. And it was really exaggerated. Not only did I have these massive tumors, but in the curious and surreal way that life serves itself up, I had so many pulmonary embolisms that the doctor who scanned me said he had never seen such diseased lungs in a young person. And so I was one for the record books. My lungs that had carried me on marathons and mile-long swims in the ocean were now so utterly diseased that they put this filter in through my jugular vein to protect me in case one of the clots got loose. I didn't know this, none of us knew this, but the clots actually did come into the filter, and they blocked it so much that my body started ballooning it was crazy. It was like a weird science fiction movie. I was, the bottom half of my body swelled up like an elephant. I couldn't even detect my toes it was just crazy. So in this craziness, that's when I got to experience God even more. The presence of the sacred in that crazy tumult. I was in the hospital bed. I couldn't move. I could barely breathe. I was, And never more have I felt so close to God. And the beauty of it was that I realized that I, myself, was not this body. That's not me. My body is going to continually change. It changes from the time I am not the little toddler, the infant that first arrived on the planet. The I is the continual evolution of consciousness. And so they're barely able to breathe and certainly not able to move. I felt this recognition of the most blessed, omnipresent, sacred essence. I couldn't sleep, and I started playing this beautiful game. It was the gratitude game. I just started noticing everything that was going right within this context of supposedly everything going wrong. So there I was. I couldn't lie all the way down because I couldn't breathe if I was flat on my back. So I was I'm sitting sort of inclined on the bed, and as I'm struggling to breathe, I give thanks for my heart, that it's actually beating steadily, and I don't have to tell it to do a thing, it's doing it on its own. And I give thanks for the steadiness of the floor beneath the bed, that it's solid, that it's not moving. I give thanks for my fingernails, they're there, my teeth, they're still in my mouth, that they don't hurt. I give thanks for the air that is so present for me, and even though it's hard for me to breathe, there's just an endless supply of fresh air for me to take in. And once I go into that process, it's easier and easier. There's so much going right. There's so much there for me. There's so much goodness. And so the hours pass away in this place of just gratitude and recognition of the miraculousness of what is, as opposed to the small, confined corner of what is not. And a funny thing happened. And that's that prior to this experience, as a professional musician, my life had been so defined by what I had achieved and what I had accomplished. I was working so much toward the awards and the recognition and the outside badges of my accomplishment in life. Who I was not, again, from the inside out, but who I was what the world told me that I had become. And that's what my focus was. And they weren't bad goals, but it was totally driven by, okay, I'm going to do this next, and after I accomplish this, I'm going to accomplish this, and after that is done, I'm going to accomplish this other. And in the hospital, it was always just date of birth. Like, that was my only identity, was my birth date, so they could make sure to give me the right medications. But something else happened. It wasn't about what I did, but just in that beingness. I recognized that my human beingness was this portal for divine expression. And what is divine expression if not love? That's all I was here to be. It wasn't about doing anything. It was just about being love. Being that window through which divine light can shine. And removing any obstacles between my ideas of what had to be, and simply surrender to that essence that I was a portal for divine expression. And that hospital room was transformed. And Lisa there with me, sitting for hours and days. Nurses started coming in and taking their breaks in the room because it was such an oasis of peace and it was such a place of love. And without having to do anything, we became agents of transformation. We were able to transform an experience in a space simply by being willing participants in the expression of the divine, of love. of being ambassadors of the sacred. It's so easy, really. It's effortless. There's no heavy lifting. It's simply accepting that each one of us is a pathway through which divine expression can enter this physical plane. There's no heavy work. It's simply acknowledging that we are vessels for that divine expression to move and to take shape on this planet. And now more than ever, we need each other. We need our consciousness to lift and to shift. We need to claim our magnificence. We need to claim the miraculousness of who we are and the blessed privilege of our humanness as exponents and transmitters of that divine consciousness. But the only ones who can do it are us. We are the ones. It's not like somebody comes to us and puts a magic wand over our head and says, okay, sacred. Okay, you're the one. You're the one. No, it's inside. Each one of us is there to simply say, yes, yes, I am willing. I am willing to step up to my magnificence so I can be a vessel for the sacred. Are you? Yes? Yes!
Yeah.
What is stopping us? What is keeping us out of our own grandness? The time is now. This is our invitation. And the invitation is today and tomorrow and the day after. It's not like the train is ever going to leave the station and you're not going to be able to be part of it. It's a daily commitment to say yes, to wake up, to be part of something extraordinary, and to realize that it is our responsibility to be agents of that divine. We are the ones that are here to help evolve human consciousness to the next level of expression. Evolution is not about getting the next opposable thumb. We already have it. It's quite handy and able. Our evolution depends on our willingness to step into our greatness and know that we are here with the sacred. We are the hands, as Mother Teresa said, we are instruments in the hand of God. We are pencils in the hand of God, writing love letters to humanity. Let's be willing participants in that beauty. Let's be sacred agents of love. Let's unfurl our wonder for all the world to see. Thank you.
Oh, she's done it again. So you're going to get ready, because after the prayer we're going to sing Reflection, which you all know. And I'll tell you that there's a part of it that Lisa is going to do this or something like that, and it means shh, because there's a rap you've never heard before that's part of the song. So, but first let's pray together. Just take a breath with me and recognize that right where you are sitting, God is. That right where the person next to you is, God is an expression. That in the air around you, Spirit is. That in everything you see and touch and hear, God is expressing itself. For there is only one life, there is only one mind, there is only one power, and it goes by 10,000 names and more. It is that thing which thought into existence all creation. It is that essence and love that is trying to make itself known through each one of us every moment of our lives. It is that beautiful sparkle that looks back from the mirror into our own eyes. And it is that which we see in the face of each other. It is that which we feel as we hold each other in greeting, or in sorrow, or in love. I simply know for each one of us that we take that step into our own greatness, that we become more and more and more the willing vessel for God to express itself here on earth. We become the junction between heaven and earth, bringing brick by brick the kingdom of heaven to earth, so that all of those who suffer, all of those who doubt, all of those who hunger, simply live there with us. We create that world